Bore da, pawb. Oops, we have an echo. Councillor Wilkinson, the naughty culprit. Iawn, na ni, no F. Yn agor cyfarfod, croeso cynnes i gyd am y bore yma. Before moving on to the agenda, I'd just like to say thank you to two councillors who aren't with us anymore on the planning committee, who stepped down, Jeff Morgan and Councillor Claire Hall as well. So I'm sure you'll join me in thanking them for their service over the past 12 months. And in the same breath, I'd like to welcome back Councillor David Selby. I think he was with us in a previous life, and I believe is the new councillor from Llanidloes, Councillor Fleer, is it? Will be joining us once she's completed her training. So nice to see you here this morning, Councillor David. Good, right, moving on, item un again to bottom. Apologies and roll call, please, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Tom Colbert.
Present.
Councillor Angela Davis.
Yeah.
Councillor Deb Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Peter James.
Present.
Councillor Adrian Jones.
Present.
Councillor Ed Jones.
Present.
Councillor Gareth D. Jones.
Present.
Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Sorry. We're going to accept.
Councillor Karina Kenyon Wade. Councillor Carl Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Gareth Pugh.
Present.
Councillor Edwin Roderick. Councillor David Selby.
Present.
Councillor Elwyn Vaughan. Councillor Jonathan Wilkinson.
Present.
Councillor Hugh Williams.
Good, thank you, diolch yn fawr. Steve. Item number 2, minutes of the previous meeting. To authorise the chair to sign the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 14th of May and the 22nd of May as well. So they're on pages 5 to 10 of your pack. Looking for a proposal for accuracy, please. Councillor Peter James, Councillor Ed, seconding. Show of hands, everyone happy? Yes, thank you very much. Nothing, nobody? No, that's good. Item number 3, declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of interest from members relating to items to be considered on the agenda.
There is a second set of minutes.
Did I not say the 14th and the 22nd?
I thought you just said the 14th. Perhaps you did.
I did say 14th and 22nd.
I do apologise.
No problem, no problem, thank you. Was the proposer and second to clear that they were for both sets of minutes? Thank you. Good, we'll carry on with the planning for declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of interest from members relating to items to be considered on the agenda today. Councillor Angela, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, 4.3, 210467
Thank you, Councillor Angela. Councillor Gareth.
Yeah, 4.4, application number 25/0640/HH.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
No one else. So moving on to receive members' requests that a record be made of their membership of town or community councils where discussion has taken place of matters for the consideration of this committee. No. To receive declarations from members of the committee that they will be acting as a local representative in respect of an individual application being considered by the committee. No. And finally, to note the details of members of the county council who are not members of the committee who will be acting as a local representative in respect of an individual application being considered by the committee. Councillor Lucy, I believe. Councillor Lucy, are you with us?
Yes, that's correct.
Good. Which item, Councillor Lucy?
Oh, sorry. I haven't got the number in front of me. The Penrose.
Penrose on 241718 FUL.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good. I think that concludes the declarations. So we'll move on swiftly planning applications for consideration this morning by the committee. Updates. There has been an update. Can I confirm that everyone has had an opportunity to read them and are happy for us to proceed with the meeting? Yeah, I can see by nodding heads. Nobody online not had an opportunity? No. Good, right. We shall move swiftly on to the first application, 4.2 on our agenda. Penrose Farm, Llanson Fried, Powys. Erection of an agricultural storage building, improvements to vehicular access, retrospective and proposed ground engineering works. Now we have a number of speakers with us this morning who will come up here, please, when called, but I will hand over now to Kate, yes, who is taking us through this. Kate, the floor is yours, diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members and members of the public. So application 241718 full is for the erection of an agricultural storage building, improvement to vehicle access, retrospective, and proposed ground engineering works at Penrose Farm, Llanson Fried and Mechain. As the Chair's just mentioned, just to reiterate, there has been a committee update report where additional information has been submitted in relation to drainage. A water strategy has been submitted. This has been reviewed by our land drainage section. Advice has been received that there will be amendments required to gain SAB approval. However, officers are satisfied that an appropriate sustainable drainage system can be achieved in order to gain SAB approval. It's further understood that an application for SAB approval is currently being prepared. So the first slide shows the application site indicated with a yellow arrow. The surrounding settlements of Daver, Sarnau and Ardleen are labelled. The site is generally in a rural location with scattered farms, properties and settlements. It is considered to be open countryside for planning purposes. This is a zoomed in sort of version with the application again shown by the yellow arrow. The application site's located at Penrose Farm. To the right of the site is the C2034 highway from which access is gained off. The area is well vegetated by coppices, small woods, hedgerows and tree belts. The site itself is flat, but the land does slope towards the south down to Penrose Village Hall, which is actually labelled on the Google Earth image, and also the Holy Trinity Church at Sarnau, which is the listed building referred to in the report. Sorry, the Holy Trinity Church is actually Penrose, not Sarnau. So you can also see that there are residential properties scattered around the locality. There's also holiday accommodation to the northwest of the site, near to the top right of the slide. This slide shows the location plan, showing the application site with the building and access edged in red and other land within the ownership of the applicant edged with the blue line. The closest public right-of-way to the east of the site is shown dotted or dashed green. To the north of the site are buildings, to the east the highway and south agricultural land. This slide shows the site prior to the development being carried out. The building covers the area plus some extra where the buildings labelled A and C were previously sited, and those buildings were demolished to make way for the building, the subject of the application, which covers a larger footprint. So you can see that some of the floor space was previously in situ, but the building does represent an increase in floor space. This is the site layout plan as constructed. Enforcement notices were served upon the site in 2018, one relating to the change of use of the site to storage and distribution, and the other relating to the construction of the building and fence and entrance gate. The storage and distribution use was confirmed to have ceased in 2023. However, the building remains in situ. So that is what we're here to discuss today, the construction of the building. So obviously the application seeks consent for the erection of the agricultural storage building, along with improvement to the vehicle access in retrospect, and then some proposed ground engineering works, which I'll show you some further details of later on. This is the elevation or plans of the building. It's a steel portal frame building measuring approximately 79 metres by 37 metres and 9.5 metres to the ridge of the roof. The building's finished with concrete panels and box profile sheeting, with the roof being grey. The north and east walls are grey and the south and west are mid-green. This is the floor plan of the building. This is a photograph of the building on a corner from one side. That's another elevational photograph. This plan shows the access, which, as previously mentioned, access is gained off the C2034 highway. Here, I'm taking the photograph standing. The access is on the right-hand side in between the close bordered fencing. So that's looking towards Penrhos Community Centre. So you can see that the road drops down the hill. This is taken towards the other side, taken towards Dather, with Penrhos Community Centre Road behind me, and the access is on the left-hand side before the red vehicles. This is standing within the access, looking down towards Penrhos Community Centre, and again, looking back up towards Dather. This is the site as seen immediately outside the access from the highway. The building, the subject of application, is behind the double gates, obviously the grey building poking out above the gates. This slide is the building as seen further along the road towards Dather at a junction with an unclassified road. In terms of highway access, the Highway Authority have advised there's no objection in principle, subject to the use of a condition restricting the use of the building to that specified within the submission, which is agricultural storage, and other conditions to ensure that the access is further improved in terms of laying a suitable bound material and setting back of the gates. And these conditions have been included in the recommendation. This photograph is taken from the closest public right way to the east of the site. You can just about see you can see the building straight in front, sort of in the centre of the photographs, beyond the boundaries of the field and the hedge and trees on the other side of the road. Moving on into the impact upon the character and appearance of the area, the application is supported by a landscape and visual appraisal prepared or completed in January 2025. This plan shows the zone of theoretical visibility of the site shaded in blue. So that's the predicted visibility for observer eye level 2 metres above ground level. The analysis doesn't take into account the screening effect of vegetation, buildings and other surface features. The ZTV indicates some visibility to the south of the site, obviously, as you can see, indicated by the blue shading, but with limited visibility to the north of the site. The pinkish red lines indicate the lands map, visual and sensory aspect areas. The site is located within the Gilsfield Rolling Farmlands visual and sensory aspect area and is evaluated as high. The landscape and visual impacts appraisal has presented 8 viewpoints, which are indicated using a kind of water drop symbol. The site is located in the centre next to the red A in a sort of a red blob. And it shows up to 3 kilometres from the site, and each ring represents 1 kilometre from the site. The viewpoint locations are the highway outside of the Holy Trinity Church, Penrhos, south of the site at the bottom of the sloping land. Number 2 is the highway near Tython Dather, north of the site. 3 is the highway between Sarnau and Penrhos. 4 is the highway near Dather, north of the site. 5 is a highway at the northern edge of Sarnau. 6 is the western edge of Sarnai, southwest of the site. A highway east of Sarnai, southeast of the site, and 8 is the highway near Begedin, southwest of the site. The landscape and visual appraisal has provided photographs from different years and months of the year from the same viewpoints. Slide 12 shows some landscaping that's additional proposed, that's included within the landscape and visual appraisal. So some landscaping measures have already been carried out. So a soil bund has been planted to the southwest and south of the building, and 4 trees planted to the south of the building. This plan indicates an additional area of native green planting shown in the dark green. This slideshow is an indicative plan showing the engineering works that I've already mentioned. So they would be works to create a bund to the south of the building, and then the sort of native woodland planting or part of it would go on top of this sort of bund or engineering works. So now I'll take you through some of the photographs submitted within the visual and landscape appraisal, as well as some photographs I've taken myself. The landscape and visual appraisal includes quite a large number of photographs from the different years. So I've tried to select just a representative for each viewpoint. So this is viewpoint 1 from the church, the highway outside the Holy Trinity Church at Penrhos, which is at the bottom of the slope. This is the same view in September 2021. This is my photograph taken in December 2024 from the churchyard. And again, taken from the churchyard in very recently, July 2025. And this is the edge of the churchyard, looking up towards the site where the building is. This is the approach road towards Penrhos Village Hall. You can see the Holy Trinity Church on the left-hand side of the picture. The building would be behind the sort of block of woodland trees within the right-hand side of the photograph. That's just showing the view of the church and the setting from that angle. Just to refer to the impact upon the setting of the church. Obviously, this photograph's taken as approaching the village hall and church from the A483 highway. You can see the woodland in the right of the photograph. The development is on higher ground, and there's limited visibility from the church and its churchyard. The Built Heritage Officer has not objected to the development in terms of the setting of the listed church. This is viewpoint 2 taken from the highway north at the site at the entrance to the, there's some holiday accommodation Hobbit homes at this site. So it's near Tyddyn Dyther. So that's earlier this year, January 2025. Obviously you can see there's a sort of earth band there where there's no visibility at that point for the site. This photograph is September 2021, taken from the same location prior to that development having been carried out. And within the centre of the photograph, you can see the roof of the building. And then you've got Criggan Quarry and the Brythen Hill behind in the distance. This is a photograph I've taken very recently, July 2025, from a point just along that road where there's a gap in the vegetation, and you can see the roof of the building in the centre of the photograph, again with Criggan Quarry and the Brythen Hill behind in the distance. Again, my photograph taken recently, building roof in the centre of the photograph and taken from the same highway to the north of the site, just through a gap in the hedgerow. This is viewpoint 3, which is the Sarnai to Penrhos highway looking towards the site. In January 2025, this photograph was taken. In the winter months, there will be some more open views, as illustrated by this photograph where it is visible in the centre of the photograph. This photograph was taken in September 2021, where there's limited or less visibility. This photograph goes right to back to the beginning, really, of when the building was first constructed, and that's May 2018, and you can see in the centre of the photograph the building there. So that does show the evolution of the landscape planting surrounding the building and how it has mitigated the landscape and visual impact. This is viewpoint 4. So this is a highway near Diver, taken January 2025. It's the same view in September 2021, where there was plenty of vegetation screening that view. This is the same, this is, 2025, the northern edge of Sarnai. You can just see the church spire in the very left-hand side of the photograph there. Same view, September 2021. And this is my photograph taken very recently, where I was standing along this road within the field gate towards of a field just off the highway. This is viewpoint 6, the western edge of Sarnai. You can see the building just to the right of the centre there, so that's January this year. And again, September 2021, where there's more vegetation. And then that's back to May 2018, where the building's to right of the centre there. Again, this is some photographs I've taken quite recently from the highway in the same highway, but quite similar locations. Viewpoint 7, to the east of Sarnai, where the building's sort of in the centre there, or just right of the centre. And again, September 2021, where there's more vegetation. And going back to May 2018. So this is the last viewpoint. This is a highway near Begedin. So further out, approximately 2.35 kilometres. So January 25, building's right in the centre there. September 2021. And going back to May 2018. So in terms of the summary of the landscape and visual impact, large agricultural buildings are not uncharacteristic in the local landscape. Obviously, there's numerous agricultural buildings in the locality and throughout Powys. The building is noticeable in the immediate vicinity. However, the grouping with the other buildings at the site and the good levels of mature vegetation assist with integrating the development into the area it's considered. This is further strengthened by proposed planting in line with the management recommendations of the aspect area. It's considered that the development can be accommodated in the local landscape, and it results in limited changes to views and landscape character. Officers agree with the recommendations and conclusions of the landscape and visual appraisal, in that planting and screening has occurred such that the development is less visible and does not have an unacceptable adverse impact upon the recreational assets, such as public rights of way, or the valued characteristics and qualities of the landscape throughout Powys, or visual amenity. Conditions have been recommended to secure the implementation of the recommended planting and earthworks. In terms of residential amenity, the Council's Environmental Protection Department have not objected to the development on the basis that livestock housing is not proposed. You will see there's a condition included to restrict the use of the building. In terms of outlook from properties, the landscape and visual appraisal indicates that there may be a moderate minor impact upon outlook to the properties closest to the site, but at longer distances and to the north, there would be no noticeable change in current views. Therefore, it's considered there's no unacceptable adverse impact upon amenity, with external lighting also to be conditioned. In terms of ecology, the Council's ecologist and Natural Resources Wales have reviewed the submission, and whilst it is quite difficult to assess some of the ecological impacts with the development having been carried out, the ecologist has offered no objection, subject to conditions relating to the provision of the details of external lighting, details and implementation of the planting scheme, and implementation of an additional enhancement for biodiversity to that's been proposed in the submission. Therefore, in conclusion, the application seeks the retention of the existing building for an alternative purpose, agricultural storage. Agriculture is supported in the open countryside by the LDP, and taking into account the contents of the landscape and visual appraisal and the consultee responses, officers consider that the retention of the building for an agricultural use is an acceptable form of development, subject to the use of conditions and informatives. Therefore, the recommendation is one of consent as set out within the committee report. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Very, very comprehensive report. Thank you very much. Members, we have 3 speakers. The first I'd like to call is Councillor Lucy Roberts. Lucy, are you with us?
Diolch, Chair. Diolch am eich amser bore 'ma. Good morning and thank you all for your time this morning. I'm sorry that I'm not there with you in person, but circumstances have made that difficult for me. I don't wish to waste your time by repeating all the points that have already been made in the committee report. I really trust that you've had time to read the papers thoroughly, particularly the comments from the residents, the clerk to the Community Council and my own comments, which draw attention to the information which is either missing or misleading in the original planning application. The officer's report mentions only one public representation, but I would like to point out that that was in fact made on behalf of a large group of, I would say at least 20 residents who had gathered together on a number of occasions in Penrose Village Hall to raise their concerns. I would like to draw your attention to some of the planning history of the site. This enormous building, which I have to say is not typical of agricultural buildings in the area. Such buildings can only be found on the business park in Welshpool. It's equivalent to the size of 11 tennis courts or 193 parked cars. It really is huge. And it was erected in 2017 without any attempt being made to apply for planning permission. During its erections, residents raised concerns on multiple occasions, but were told that a stop notice could not be applied, and so the building work continued. The purpose of the building and subsequent use was the storage and distribution of goods, which was associated with a significant increase in really heavy traffic on totally inappropriate narrow lanes used locally by walkers, cyclists and horse riders and local residential traffic. In 2018, an enforcement order gave the owners 6 months to cease use and 12 months to return the site to agricultural use. The use was ceased, but the return to agricultural use, which residents assumed would be to a greenfield site, did not occur. Since then, there have been numerous planning applications made, which have all been turned down, primarily to highways issues. And I'm disappointed that Kate hasn't mentioned the highways issues in her report, because as far as the residents are concerned, the visual aspect is of minimal concern compared with that of the highways. So I would like to ask what I think is a key question, which is if this planning application had come to you for agricultural use in the correct manner back in 2017, with so little information to support the need for such an enormous building associated with such a tiny agricultural holding of around 4 acres, would you have granted it? In the current application, the design and access statement refers to the fact that the building would provide much needed undercover storage for feed, fodder and grain produced on the agricultural holding, as well as agricultural machinery and implements. It also states that Penrose Farm comprises an established agricultural unit. However, when Penrose Farm was sold to the applicant in 2017, the sale included only 4.5 acres or 1.8 hectares of land. Much of that has already had or will have trees planted on it. I raised concern that the planning application form states that none of the land to which the application relates is or is part of an agricultural holding. The officer report states that the agricultural holding certificate has been completed correctly, as the land in question is not subject to an agricultural tenancy. But that's not the issue. The issue is that there is no or virtually no agricultural holding associated with the application. Attention's been drawn to the fact that the building is not suitable for the housing of livestock, which is correct. But how can a holding of this size need such a large amount of storage for feed, fodder, grain, or machinery? In 2023, the applicant created a business called Triang Farms, but the 23-24 balance sheet shows current assets of only £2,542, of which £2,540 is cash at the bank. The applicant has launched a website which talks of Triang Farms being a progressive and innovative agricultural business with a strong commitment to sustainable farming practices. And yet none of the farmers I have spoken to in the locality know anything about Triang Farms or any ownership of any wider farm holdings. And as I have mentioned, their balance sheet doesn't reflect such a business. My concern is that if planning permission is granted for this building, which is totally inappropriate in size and scale for the local area, the building will not stand virtually empty, as it should if its role is truly to support the non-existent agricultural holding that remains at Penrose, but that it will be used by wider businesses for machinery and fodder storage. And this will inevitably increase the agricultural traffic in the area, which is the main reason that past applications for other uses have been refused. Alternatively, if the applicant truly intends to expand their own business over a wider area and use the warehouse to support this, the same increase in traffic will apply. There is no way that the building can be fully utilised without fodder or machinery being brought in and subsequently taken out to other farm holdings over a much wider area, and thereby massively increasing the traffic along very minor and unsuitable lanes in the vicinity, which, as aforementioned, goes against the previous planning applications of this site. I believe that granting planning permission now would make a mockery of the whole planning system and demonstrate once again that if you have sufficient funds to ignore the planning process, that you can do pretty much whatever you want. Yeah, I would just like to reiterate, this site does not support the agricultural business, does not support the need for such an enormous building. And if the planning permission is to be granted, then I feel that there should be very, very tight conditions, making sure that goods are not brought in from elsewhere and moved out and then subsequently moved out of the holding. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lucy. Carol Davis, Clerk to the Community Council. To remind you also have 8 minutes. And the time is yours whenever you're ready.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity of explaining the concerns of Llandrillo and Ardlean Community Council. You will all be aware of the planning history on this site and can see that the applicant has played cat and mouse with the planning authority since 2017 when the warehouse was built. It is important to note that on the 25th September 2018, he was served with an enforcement notice to cease use of the building within 28 days and dismantle it within 9 months. It took until July 2023 for the business use to cease, and as you can see, the building still stands. I would like to draw councillors' attention to the Powys County Council's constitution and corporate governance statement, which is available on the website. Here, the council emphasises the importance of community focus and promises to engage with the community, respond to local concerns, and to safeguard the interests of its residents. Powys County Council has failed miserably in this regard, and it is very worrying to see in the planning officer's report that she states that 1 public representation was received, but what she failed to say is that this representation was on behalf of the Sarney, Penrose and Dyther residents, who had formed a group which has been going for 8 years to respond to the plethora of planning applications. I have been given a list, and there are 66 members in this group, and their concerns should be noted. So the application before you today is to ask the question, Is the warehouse acceptable as an agricultural building? The answer to this must be no. If the building wasn't in situ and the application was submitted, then planning permission would not be granted as the farm is under 5 hectares, and under the Town and Country Planning Amendment Order, only buildings up to 1,250 cubic metres are allowed, and this is to ensure that buildings are proportionate to the size of the holding. The industrial warehouse is 2,890 cubic metres, over twice as large, and should be refused under policy DM13, Design and Resources. The second reason for refusal today is the concern over the highways policy T1. It is important to note that this was the reason why the retrospective application for use as an industrial warehouse was refused on the 12th of January 2020, as the extra traffic generated was considered unacceptable in this rural location which uses Class C roads. With the application before you today, there is no exact details of what will be stored in the building if agricultural use was granted. It can only be feed or machinery, and as Councillor Lucy said, both of these items will have to be delivered to the site and will increase the volume of traffic. It is important to note the Highways' response to this application, as they say that the use should be conditioned to be solely for agricultural use in connection with the existing holding. But how is this actually going to be policed? Can it be policed? Because they note the building is of large mass and any other use would need a separate planning application. They've tried that. It is no good thinking, well, the applicant will have to add extra passing places, as this was considered in previous applications, and the Highways Department concluded there is not enough land available in their ownership to achieve it. It is important to stress with this application, it's not a question of it may increase the traffic, it will increase the traffic, and the size and frequency of vehicles is an unknown quantity. And we also take issue with the comment by the planning officer that any traffic generated would be similar to any other farm. No other farm in the area has a building of this size, has the capacity of this warehouse, and the volume of machinery it could potentially store would lead to a significant increase in traffic. When Penrose Farm was originally sold, it was a small dairy farm with milk collection on alternate days and no employees. The role of the planning committee is to implement planning policy, but also to safeguard the amenity of an area and its residents. It has been extremely difficult to get any enforcement action from Powys County Council, and as you can see, it took 6 years for the use of the building to cease, during which time there were numerous accidents on the narrow lane, and the community do not wish to see this repeated. So we ask the question, what harm is the building doing? We can never evaluate what harm it has done to the ecology of the area, as no surveys were ever done to check for newts and bats. Yes, the appearance can be screened by the addition of more trees, but the real harm is the continual threat of what this industrial warehouse will be used for. The building is out of keeping with the area. Will it present value for money if the applicant takes Powys County Council to appeal? It depends on how you consider it. Per resident, no, it may not be considered value for money in this little rural area. But in the wider context of the planning department actually implementing its planning policies, following its constitution and having some teeth for enforcement, it will send a message to any other ruthless businessman who wishes to build a warehouse in a quiet corner of Montgomeryshire. So please refuse the application today. Thank you.
Diolch, thank you. Carol, speaking on behalf of Llandriniaeth and Avleen Community Council. I'd like to ask Mr. Richard Corbett to come and speak on behalf of the applicants. There you go. Mr. Corbett, the time's yours when you're ready.
There's 8 minutes, isn't it? Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of a planning application today on behalf of the applicant, Triang Farms Limited. Compliments to the comprehensive and balanced review of the scheme by Kate and the planning department on what has been a difficult site. As noted within the application and at length within the Planning Officer's committee report, the application seeks consent in retrospect for the construction of a steel portal frame building to be used for purposes of agricultural storage. The application also seeks permission for improvements to the site's main vehicular access and all other associated works. As you've already heard, the site and building lies within a rural area outside of any settlement boundary where the predominant character and form of development is one of agriculture. Indeed, whilst I'll expand on this later, the subject building, I would argue, is certainly not out of character with the surrounding area. The applicant's site's planning history is recorded precisely within the committee report before you today, and is accepted that the applicant constructed the building on site without the benefit of planning permission in 2018, which replaced the existing buildings as was set out. The building's initial use was one of a commercial nature, and a non-agricultural business was operated from the site for a period of time. We know that this was initially unauthorised and erected by the applicant due to an immediate need for a fast-growing business where there was not enough business land available in the locality. Upon lengthy conversations with the local planning authority and the issuing of several planning enforcement notices by the council in relation to the site, the applicant ceased the use of the site for commercial purposes and relocated the business away from the site. I want to make it clear, therefore, in contradiction to perhaps both of the speakers that we've heard from, that the applicant in this scenario has certainly not got away with anything. In my experience, Paris have been more robust than I've seen them on many enforcement cases on this site because of the local community council and local member, and the fact there were quite a few immediate neighbours that didn't like it. There's been never any intention to circumnavigate the current planning system. The applicant has since has tried to work with the council throughout the site's recent history and did cease the use of the site working with the council, well, followed their instructions. Our client has asked me on his behalf to apologise for the manner in which the situation has come about, and this is our attempt at trying to get it in a position where we can all move forward. This application is made on the basis of an agricultural use of the site. So the agricultural use of the site has already been confirmed by the local planning authority as being lawful. This was a farm. This is an agricultural storage. When we talk about additional movements, all of the storage of any straw, machinery could happen on this open yard. The building is purely to make that a more acceptable proposal from the applicant's point of view. Whilst originally constructed for commercial use, it is, as is evident from the submitted drawings and the photos contained within the Planning Officer's presentation, the building is well suited to agricultural storage use and has a very similar design to most modern agricultural buildings, having an overall low profile within the surrounding landscape and being finished externally with the profile cladding, which is very normal for agricultural buildings that you've all seen and you see before you as a committee. It's accepted that the agricultural holding at Penrith Farm is of a relatively small scale. However, the client has additional land in excess of 5 hectares that has been mentioned, and the business growth would follow if planning is granted. However, as mentioned at the beginning of my speech, the application seeks consent for an agricultural storage building within a rural agricultural area. There is no requirement within the local and national planning policy for evidence of the need to be demonstrated as part of a planning application for agricultural development within the open countryside. Conversely, Planning Policy Wales Technical Advice Note 6 and the adopted Paris Local Development Plan are very supportive of new agricultural development proposals within areas such as this, owing to a positive impact they can have on the rural economy. In this instance, we consider the agricultural soil buildings will have benefits for the local agricultural sector, being centrally located within a large agricultural part of Montgomeryshire with several surrounding large-scale farms and agricultural businesses. It is accepted that some concerns exist locally in terms of potential highway impacts. However, as is confirmed within the committee report before you, the site has an existing agricultural use, and the building subject of the planning application itself is not considered to have potential to significantly increase the volume of frequency of vehicle movements to and from the site along the local highway network. I reiterate that the application seeks consent for an agricultural storage building only, and at the request of the Council's Highways Department, the Planning Officer has included a condition within the recommendations to secure the use of this building. I think it's mentioned by the other speakers that these would be additional movements, but all these agricultural movements would already be taking place. There's a certain amount of land, agricultural products need to be moved between them. Whilst concerns were raised by the Council's Built Heritage Officer as part of previous planning applications concerning the impact of the development on the nearby church, Importantly, as part of the current application, the Built Heritage Officer has not raised any objections, and indeed, I think the photographs prove that there is very limited intervisibility between the subject agricultural building and the listed building, given the presence of the existing mature tree planting and existing trees. Natural Resources Wales and council ecologists raised no issues as part of the application in terms of ecological impacts and green infrastructure, and in fact there's improvements and betterment over the current position that are suggested. In terms of surface water drainage, an outlined surface water drainage strategy has been submitted as per the requirements of Technical Advice Note 15. This outlines a proposed strategy which can be implemented on site to deal with the separate SAB applications, which we all have to follow. It's acknowledged that the relatively large scale of a building, the majority of the concerns raised as part of the site's planning history over recent years are in relation to the impacts upon the surrounding rural landscape. In response to these concerns, it's firstly important to note that the subject building was erected in place of several former existing buildings, which were albeit of individually smaller scales. However, the principle of a building or farm buildings on the land forming part of the complex at Penrhos Farm was already set and established. Furthermore, as already mentioned, the subject building has been constructed with external materials replicating those of agricultural buildings, namely slate blue and juniper green box profile cladding. Notwithstanding this, it's accepted that the scale of a subject building is larger and therefore more visible than the former buildings that were on site. To this end, the planning application has been accompanied by a detailed landscape and visual appraisal, which was undertaken by written by an experienced landscape consultant with over 25 years' experience in this field. The Planning Officers Committee report helpfully summarises the content of a landscaping and visual appraisal, concluding that the building is suitable to fit within the context of the surroundings of the application site. I live locally and the site is very well screened, and the visibility of the site is constrained by the established landscaping. The officer's positive report confirms compliance with the LDP policy DM13, no acceptable effect on amenities or neighbouring properties. The council's highway authority has no objection. On the historic environment, the Built Heritage Officer has not objected. The NRW have confirmed no objection. The officer's report recommends reasonable conditions which we are happy with and prepared to comply with, and we hope that you are able to support the officer's recommendation today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Corbett. Members, it's over to you now. I've got a number of hands up. First to speak, Councillor Elwyn, then Councillor Adrian, followed by Councillor Karina, please. Councillor Elwyn Vaughan.
Diolch, Cadeirydd, and can I thank the speakers for their contributions this morning. It's obviously a emotional history to the site. However, of course, we have to look today at what is in front of us and the state of play as presented. Two questions for the officer, first of all. Certificate of lawfulness, you touch on that, it's been passed. Can you confirm it has a certificate of lawfulness for agricultural use?
Yeah, so I was just getting the reference number. The reference number of the application for certificate of lawfulness. So it's a section 192 application for a certificate of lawfulness for a proposed agricultural use. Was approved under reference 23/1479/CLP in 25th of June 2024. So that's saying that the site can be used for an agricultural use lawfully in planning legislation terms.
Thank you, that's useful. And in your report also, note on page 36, you refer to Penrhos Farm and the haulage yard.
Yeah, so it's actually, this slide's probably quite useful. So just to the north of the site, so you can see the building subject of the application edged in red. I believe just to the north is a lawful haulage site.
Yeah, is that, well, can I'll on from that then. For my understanding is actually that was a long-standing haulage contractor which had served the agriculture community most of the time since the Second World War, with about up to 25 HGV vehicles. Business is not in existence anymore. The fact that I'm highlighting that is that there's a track record of HGVs using these roads, so it's nothing new in terms of potential pressures on the road use. And in actual fact, what is happening at the moment is less than what has happened historically. I think the other obvious issue is the terms of landscaping, but I must confess, I've travelled all the way down from Llanbrynmawr this morning. I've passed dozens of farm buildings all the way down, which have hardly any landscaping whatsoever. And indeed, I don't need to squint to try and find them on a picture on the screen. And I think we as a committee have approved dozens of chicken sheds over recent years, and I must say many of them have hardly or very little landscaping at all. So in comparison, I find this site much better than many of those such buildings. And indeed, I do take issue because if I recall, on the road from the highway at Llandrynio towards this site, I've passed in previous years a similar type buildings, very tall, actually with very little landscaping at all. To say it's not in pattern and in keeping with other buildings in the area, I think is not quite correct. I do notice, I appreciate the concerns historically, but as I said, we have to look at what we have in front of us. And at the end of the day, the landscape officer is happy and content it doesn't affect on the listed building. The environmental protection officer and ecologist are happy. Highways are happy because it doesn't have the effect that some fear. NRW and the fire authority are happy, and I'm happy with the report as presented by the officer. At the end of the day, I think also the whole history of the site has developed for the simple reason because we as an authority didn't allow any economic development land in the last LDP in Welshpool. And that's the crux of it, and we have nobody to blame but ourselves. And therefore, in due course, Chair, I will have no hesitation in moving that we approve the officer's recommendation, because that is the only way to progress as the situation stands here now today. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr, diolch i ti, Councillor Vaughan. Next to speak, please, Councillor Adrian Jones.
Thanks, Chair. I just want some clarification on the enforcement notices that have been put on this site. One has been lifted. So the one still standing, which is asking for the building to be taken down, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, on the one that's been complied with, it says here, cease using the land for the purpose of storage and distribution and return the land to conditions suitable for agricultural use. I can't see how that's been done. There's a huge hard standing area there. And in the report somewhere, it says a lot of land, soil was moved to backfill and make a level site for that hard standing and the building. So obviously that hasn't been returned to the original agricultural state.
The notice doesn't require it to be returned to the original condition. It requires it to be to a condition suitable for agricultural use.
So
I believe,
okay.
yeah.
So the hard standing is an agricultural yard, not an agricultural field.
Yeah, I can see no reason why hard standing cannot be used for agriculture.
Okay,
I think
that's fine.
our
Thank
position.
you. Got that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adrian. Councillor Carina, anyway.
Thanks very much. The clerk from the Ardlean Community Council mentioned accidents occurring on the road when the site was used for commercial purposes up until 2023. And so I'd like to ask a representative from Highways about those problems. I would also, the clerk also mentioned future policing of the correct use should we grant planning permission today. future policing of the use of this building, I assume there's a fine dividing line between haulage and agricultural uses, and I don't know how that dividing line will be maintained. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Should we take the second question first in relation to the future policing and the of the use of the building? So as a planning authority, Kate, how are we going to?
Yeah, so obviously conditions recommended in terms of the use. You're right, sometimes it can be difficult to obviously ascertain, you know, large or haulage type lorries going there for an agricultural purpose rather than another purpose. However, we do have tools as an enforcement, as a planning authority. Obviously, we've got our enforcement officers. You know, members of the public, the community council, the local member are able to submit planning enforcement complaints to ourselves. Our enforcement officers, with the assistance of planning officers, will investigate those concerns. We can make visits to the site. We can contact the landowner or their agents. We can monitor ourselves if we're in the area. But obviously, it's, you know, you're talking about specific periods of time then. But that's how we would sort of react to any allegations of a change of use. We would thoroughly investigate. We've got tools such as a planning contravention notice, which we can serve upon the landowner to ask them questions about the traffic usage, about the usage of the site.
Could I please ask, does that mean the onus is back on the community to police in some way?
In some ways, yes. Obviously, we cover the whole of Powys. We don't have the ability to be, obviously, nor would we wish to, sort of sit outside a property sort of 5 hours a day monitoring what's coming in and out. So unfortunately, yes, it is up to local residents, etc., if they are noting concerns and bringing those forward to us as a planning authority to investigate.
Thank you. Could I please ask about the roads as well? Thank you.
I'll come to that. We have a couple of officers, I believe, from Highways today. Paul, would you be able to come back on the question raised by?
Yeah, morning all. From the Highways perspective then, in terms of accidents, we would only be made aware of any recorded injury accidents along the highway. If there was simply accidents which were non-injury, we wouldn't be made aware of those. I'm not aware of any injury accidents that have been caused, but again, we have got to look at this application in terms of agricultural use and not commercial, as was previously used from this site.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Crean, are you happy with that?
Could I please ask what restrictions on the road network meant that this application was refused in the first instance in 2018?
Well, it's my understanding it was a completely different application. They were looking at commercial use, so that would have been maybe storage and distribution, which would have generated more traffic rather than agriculture. So it would have been looked at traffic generation from a proposal. At this present time, we have purely got to look at it from an agricultural perspective only, because that was what is listed on the application form.
Thank you both. Next, please, Councillor Jonathan, and then Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst I don't want to trawl through the history of this planning application, which is lengthy, it does make me uneasy in terms of enforcement and as an authority, our ability to enforce. And at the early stages of this, going back to 2017, 2018, it's pretty clear as an authority, we didn't have the ability to enforce. And I contrast this with our seeming zeal in enforcing on much more modest developments, where those seeking to develop have much more modest resources and are unable to maybe take on an enforcement which they don't think is appropriate. And I have one currently in my ward, which which is ongoing. So I am uneasy about that and the lack of consistency in our ability to enforce. That said, we moved on with this particular application. I see from the documents in front of me that from the 7th of March 2022, the discharge of conditions that was approved. In December, an application to discharge conditions which were approved. Section 192 application for a certificate of lawfulness which was approved. And then later in 2024, permitted development. And I understand that this is now considered to be a lawful development. So I want a little bit of guidance really from possibly Kate or Gemma. How much weight do we as a planning committee need to give those certificates of lawfulness and the permitted development, an acknowledgement of that in making a decision? It would seem to me that as a planning committee, we have little option but to approve this application.
Thank you, Councillor Jonathan. Gemma, Cruz.
So I think what you're asking is, so the certificate of lawfulness has confirmed that the site can lawfully be used for agricultural purposes. So you want to know how much weight can be given to that. So, so the land can be used for agricultural purposes. So I think the agent referred to it within their address to committee members that, you know, an agricultural use can occur which generates traffic impacts here. So that's a fallback position. Yeah, the use of land for agriculture is not development in itself. Therefore, there is an agricultural use which is lawful on this site at present. So, yeah, you obviously can afford weight to that, and that certificate is a legal decision which has been made on the site. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kate.
Councillor Jonathan, you happy? Yeah, to move.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate, for that response. Councillor Gareth E. Jones, then Councillor Gareth Pugh, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions. You mentioned in your presentation that the buildings were there was buildings on the site previously. Do you know roughly what percentage of the footprint of the current building that they covered? You know, whether was it 25 or 40, whatever percent?
Yeah, we'll just check the landscape and visual appraisal because I believe the square meterage is mentioned there.
Oh, okay. Second point, if we do consider approving this, can I suggest we amend one of the conditions, which is the last one, condition number 11, where it says a building shall be used for storage of feed, fodder, grain, and machinery implements. Can I suggest we add the word agriculture in front of machinery to make it specific, so it's going to be used for agricultural machinery and implement storage? Because as it's written there, I could put any machinery, any implements in. So I think we just need that word agriculture in there, Chair. And would I be right in assuming that if the owners wanted to lease this building to a agriculture contractor, there wouldn't be anything stopping them if this application was approved? I'm suggesting we add the word agriculture between and machinery. Chair, I only want to nest, I only want roughly, was it 25, 40 or something like that?
Yeah, the within the public representations, it refers to oh no, that's the existing building, isn't it? Sorry.
Councillor Angela, do you say you've managed to?
Yeah, Chair. So in the report pack, page 15 of the pack for this application, it said that the building has a volume of 27,659 cubic metres and that the previous 3 buildings had a combined internal floor area of 1,725 metres square.
Okay. Happy with that. Happy with that response to that. Thank you, Councillor Angela, very grateful. Agriculture, what are other members' thoughts of that? What officers are you, Kate, are you content with adding that agricultural word to that?
Yeah, that adds clarity.
Is that what members are happy with as well, just by, yeah? So that's a suggestion from the committee if we were mindful to go with officer recommendation. Good, thank you for that, Councillor Gareth. Councillor Gareth Pugh, please, and I haven't got any other hands after Councillor Pugh.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I hear the objectors, but I also see that most of the problems they've had seem to be historic. All that we have to put to one side because we can only look at what is in front of us today. And today we are just looking at an agricultural building, is that right?
Correct.
And most of the objectors seem to be, well, most of it is all around this issue of highways. So could I ask the highways to confirm that there is nothing in policy to restrict the amount of traffic to an agricultural enterprise?
I think it's already been mentioned, hasn't it? There would be nothing stopping somebody put straw in a stack outside, machinery outside, feed outside. So in turn, they could be putting those particular items I mentioned in a building. So it's just a trade-off for what you could be putting outside normally.
Yeah, okay. Could I ask our officer just to bring up the photograph, please, of the actual building?
Kate's doing that now. There you go.
Ah, there we go. I've seen many of those in my time, as you can imagine. And that to me looks like a typical agricultural storage building. So based on the fact that there are no restrictions on highways in policy for an agricultural enterprise, it looks like an agricultural building. I would like to second Councillor Vaughan. And yeah, I'll second Councillor Vaughan on approving this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pugh. Excuse me, Councillor Carl Lewis, please.
Thank you, Chair. As the speakers have already put across, this has been going on for 8 years. Over those years, I've been contacted by noted businessmen in private who understandably are very upset that this has been allowed to continue and just runs roughshod over any sort of planning enforcement we've ever put in front of them. Can I ask, Chairman, we talk a lot about not having enough industrial space for businesses to develop, and rightly so in some parts of Paris. Could I ask when the new enterprise park was built in Welshpool, please? Just outside, behind the sales pitch there in agricultural sales pitch there in siting, well, the markets, I should say, in Welshpool, please.
Carl, I've asked officers, they're not sure when that was, and I'm not quite sure what that has to do with the application that we're discussing before us this morning, unless you can add something.
What I was getting at, Chair, was there was space at the time during this period of enforcement where this business could have gone and started their business off. I just find it that the plan department have been utterly impotent and toothless in this manner of trying to enforce this. This has been going on.
Councillor Carl, I hear what you're saying, but as you well know, and as members have already alluded to, we have to look at what is before us this morning.
I know, I'm getting to my point, Chair. If we do approve this today, what message does this send to the people and businesses around Paris? I'll leave it there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I hear your points. Thank you. I don't see any. Oh, I have one last minute. Councillor Tom Colbert. You're on mute, Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Chair, for I'd just like to follow up what Councillor Carl said. I think it's quite appropriate that he can be allowed to give his opinion, whether we agree with it or disagree with it. I don't think, if we might see something in front of us today, but we're a committee and our opinions matter. We should be allowed to give our opinions without any sanction, I believe.
His opinion was perfectly entitled to give it, which he did. But as we are always reminded as a planning committee, we have to deal with what is in front of us. And that's what I was trying to guide. Councillor Carl made his point, and I think we all heard it loud and clear. But so thank you, Councillor Tom, for that observation. More hands, Councillor Peter, and then Councillor Adrian, please, and then I will take this to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. I was just interested with the floor space of approximately 2,893 square meters. Is that taking in consideration the hard surface in front of the building as well?
No, that's just the building, floor space of the building.
Because if that hard surface can be used for storage as well, that could have an impact on viewing the actual outlook of the old situation, couldn't it?
Yeah, there would be entitlement to store outside on the hard standing as well. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just interested that, it could be visually quite a big different look on the actual situation if that's mindful to go forward, isn't it?
Going back to the landscape and visual kind of appraisal and the wider landscape impact, officers we consider that it's not particularly visible in the landscape now, considering the screening, etc., that's taken place. Therefore, we don't consider that an outside kind of storage impact would have a significant effect that would warrant refusal. Obviously, outside storage is quite commonplace, agricultural holdings, obviously, in any case, isn't it?
Do we actually know what sort of size that hard surface is outside the actual building?
Sorry, that's the latest aerial view from Google. So you can see that the building and then the hard standing sort of surrounding it.
Okay, Councillor Peter, you happy?
And yeah, and some of it will be planted, obviously, as shown on the planting plan there. Some of that will be planted as well.
So we're basically saying that the hard standing is about the same size as the building itself, isn't it? In rough terms.
Yeah, I think the application is for the shed, isn't it, that we're looking at, and it's a tricky one to be able to determine between what is in front of a shed, because apart from landscaping, we can't put a policy that everything has to be stored.
No, I was just interested, that it could be used as alternately storage area. And it could make a bigger footprint, but you've answered the question, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor B. Councillor Adrian, you wish to come back, and I can see Councillor Carl has put his hand up, and I will allow him to come back, as I daren't not.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, if this is approved, agricultural usage, obviously I can't see that the applicant owns enough land to ever produce enough produce to go in there. So on the approval, it could be rented out for other farmers to use, or even, for example, a company to store fertilizer in through the winter months. Would that be right?
Gemma, Kate.
Yeah, the site can be rented out for an agricultural storage use.
And my point is then, sorry, just to go on, say that scenario happened, it was filled with fertilizer for a company to distribute it through the year, that could go on and on all year, in and out as as in agricultural use, as fertilizer moving in and out, or even feeds?
That scenario you're talking about is probably likely to be a commercial use. We would
So that
say
would
that
be
could possibly be a
restricted.
change of use.
Yeah,
So,
okay, that's fine. Thank you.
yeah, so that would likely to require plan permission in its own right,
Okay, thank you.
but we'd have to take a view at the time, but yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Adrian. Councillor Carl.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask if this application came before you, Kate, without the history and everything else around it, and the agricultural land that is being denoted within the information pack, would you be happy to approve this application?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Carl, Lewis. So in our policies, there is nothing within our LDP which states that there has to be a need for the agricultural building. So, you know, it is very difficult to challenge agricultural holdings, farmers, landowners, etc. They're proposing an agricultural building on agricultural land. It's very difficult to challenge the need for a building. I would say the need's been assessed by the applicant usually in most circumstances. So if this building had not been built, it's very unlikely, I would say, that the planning authority would challenge the need. We'd be looking at the other material considerations as we have done today, such as landscape impact, highways impact.
So, in other words, if you have a hole in, regardless of the acreage or hectare acreage that you have, you're able to erect a huge building like this and just put a pile of grain in the corner. Is that what satisfactory to the planning department now in Paris?
I think we've got a high.
Chairman, I'd like you to, as planning.
I'll just come in quickly there. So we've determined this application very much on its own merit. Like Kate has said, there is no policy that we have to assess what that need is. I think earlier in the week, someone did a good quote of if someone's applying for an extension to their house, we don't ask them if they need that extension. And that is the scenario here.
Okay.
As we've gone through, we are very much clearly determined this application on its own merits. We've got an application for an agricultural building.
Yep.
I know the history is not satisfactory, but we have to put that aside for today. We have got a building, we've had a landscape and visual assessment, which has clearly demonstrated that there isn't a negative or a strong harm to it. So officers, and I would direct members, we do have to consider those policies in front of us today when determining it.
Yes. All I'll say, Chair, is there's a route here for anyone. It's laid out as a map as case evidence. So I look forward to the applications coming in forthwith. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Carl. Yeah, very, very valid point. I do apologise to a couple of councillors who've asked to. Oh God. Councillor Hugh, you haven't spoken before.
No, I will be brief. There's landscaping proposed. Can we put a condition when and where that is to be planted, if you like? Because we've had previous experiences of promises of landscaping and they haven't sort of appeared. Like, and bearing in mind that there is a history of non-compliance to a degree here. Is it appropriate to have that condition with a time, perhaps, or a date? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibbs. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, I believe condition 10 requires the implementation of the landscaping.
Within a period.
It says within a period of 5 years.
Yeah, so
that is a long time.
no, so condition 9 requires a scheme of landscaping to be submitted within 3 months of the date if permission is granted. Condition 10 then requires that planting to be carried out in accordance with the approved scheme in the first planting and seeding seasons following the date of this permission. So if permission was granted now, that would be the autumn, winter, spring coming next year.
Okay, thank you. I didn't really like it, but okay.
Thank you, Councillor Hugh. Good, right. I think we will go to the vote, please. Steve, are you ready to go. It will appear in the chat box shortly. There you go, members. The vote is open.
Chair. Sorry, Mike.
Yes, Councillor Selby.
Mike, I'm now being asked to approve my sign-in request because I've not gone through this process before.
Okay, are you happy to do verbally, or
I can verbally.
or if you wish, Steve can come up?
No,
to you?
I have no problem voting verbally.
Thank you. Well, I'll come to you once Steve is ready. So everybody else been able to vote? Any problems at home? No.
So, Chair, I'm not quite sure how you normally do it. Do you read out the named votes?
Normally, once you've
of the
got
total?
you read them out. That's okay, but you need to take into account obviously Councillor Selby's
Of course.
vote.
Councillor Elwyn Vaughan for.
No, sorry.
Sorry.
Just the total
Oh,
for
sorry.
14 for, whatever against, how many abstentions as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So 12 for, 2 against, 1 abstention.
Have you taken Councillor Selby's?
And 4. So that's 13 for, 2 against, 1 abstention.
13 for. Very good. Thank you, members. And that has gone with officer recommendation. Can I thank all the speakers who've contributed that to all the officers as well? Is it your wish that we had a short comfort break? Yeah, I can see. So and Councillor Angela will sign out now and she won't come back into the next one. So it is now, is 8 minutes okay? Ravine back at 11:30. Are you ready? Yeah, Christ and all power. Welcome back, everyone. It was remiss of me at the start not to welcome Steve to our planning meeting. Carol is away on holiday and Steve has kindly agreed to step in. So thank you, Steve, for your help. Can we please have the roll call?
Councillor Tom Colbert.
Present.
Councillor Angela Davis has stepped out for this next item. Councillor Deb Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Peter James.
Present.
Councillor Adrian Jones.
Present.
Councillor Ed Jones.
Present.
Councillor Gareth D. Jones.
Amma.
Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Amma.
Councillor Karina Kenyon Wade. Councillor Carl Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Gareth Pugh.
Present.
Councillor Edwin Roderick. Councillor David Selby. Councillor Elwyn Vaughan.
Amma.
Councillor Jonathan Wilkinson.
Present.
Councillor Hugh Williams.
Amma.
Thank you, Devar, Steve. Moving on, members, item number 4.3 on the agenda. Application of tourism development of 4 holiday pods to include access road and associated works. And the officer handling the application with us this morning is Rhian. So Rhian, all over to you, Devar. Oh, of course, my apologies.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, members, given the nature of the applicant in this matter, the protocol dictates that the solicitor is to review the file to ensure that it has been processed correctly, and I can confirm that that is the case. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Delayed, but now the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. As has been mentioned, this application relates to 4 holiday lodges. So the application site is located on the southern side of Raider, as is indicated by the red arrow on this slide. The site is accessed via an unclassified highway leading from the A470. As is noted within this description, the application is part retrospective, This element relates to the internal access track which has been constructed and can be seen on this aerial image indicated by the orange arrow. So the location plan on the screen now shows the locations of the 4 proposed holiday units, which would each have their own parking. Planting is proposed north and south of the units, with trees to the north and a hedgerow along the boundary to the south. This planting would be controlled via condition 8 and would act as biodiversity enhancement for the site. A private foul drainage system is proposed for the development, as is detailed within the officer report. NRW have objected to the principle of this. However, we are satisfied that this does comply with the hierarchy of Circular 008/2018, based on NRW's own guidance. The proposal also complies with guidance in relation to phosphorus impact on the River Wye. Access improvements are proposed, which the Highway Authority have confirmed they are happy with, subject to conditions which are included in the recommendation. So the application proposes 4 holiday units, which would take the form of 2 of the Pemberton units and 2 Eitham units. The design of the units is not considered to offer an unacceptable landscape impact, particularly due to the site's location on the edge of the town of Raider. Any views which are visible behind the landscaping will be seen in the context of this existing built development. So this photo is taken from the unclassified highway looking towards the entrance to the site. And this photo is taken internal to the site going up the access track, looking towards the area of the proposed holiday units. This is looking left from the top of the access track towards the area where 2 of the holiday units are proposed. And this photo looks slightly right towards the area where the trees are proposed to be planted. The other 2 units would be slightly further round to the right. And this final photo looks down from the site towards the A470 and the neighbouring residential properties. As can be seen, some of the proposed hedgerow planting has already been undertaken, though this has not yet become fully established. The recommendation for this application is approval subject to conditions outlined in the report. So I will now pass back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Rhian, we don't have any speakers for this application. So members, I get them in your hands for some comments and questions, please. Must have done a really good job, really. Nobody's willing to hear it. Councillor Vaughan, please.
Well, to start things off then, you mentioned NRW. Just had to combine myself for the notes. What exactly? So they're opposed, but you think it's okay?
Yes, so they raised concerns with the method of foul drainage. Their comments on the application suggest that it should be connecting to the main sewer, which runs in Raider, rather than having a private system. But they've acknowledged themselves that the development is over 150 metres away from that sewer. And then their guidance separately suggests that it is generally feasible to connect for a distance of 30 metres per unit. So for the 4 units proposed, it would be 120 metres. So it's in excess of their own guidance.
Thank you, Councillor Elwyn. Any further hands take? Councillor Hugh, did you have your hand up? It's not anymore.
I did, but Chair, he did. I did, but he nicked my question. But if there's a need for somebody, I'm willing to propose that we accept the recommendation if it's appropriate.
Thank you, Councillor Hugh. I'll take that as a proposal. And then I got Councillor Gareth E. Jones, followed by Councillor Ed.
Yeah, just a quick question on condition 3, Chair, where it says if the units weren't, they're going to continue to be.
Sorry, Councillor, I was struggling to hear you a little bit.
Sorry,
I'm just struggling to hear you a little bit.
because I'm so soft and so
That's
softly
exactly-
spoken. Sorry, I do apologise.
That's exactly why we're struggling to hear you.
You want to hear me speaking a bit louder then. Condition 3, where it says that if the units cease to be the units, then could be reverted back to agricultural land. Did officers consider that those units may be suitable for housing, although short term in the future?
As I understand it, the units aren't permanent structures. They are sited on the land rather than constructed with footings and the like that would be typically associated with being of a suitable quality for housing.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Gareth. Councillor Ed, please.
Just simply second the proposal.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Edwin?
Thank you, Chair. Just a query, actually. Regarding the phosphates issue, I was under the understanding in the upper reaches of the Wye that some of the restrictions had been risen or lifted regarding phosphates, and they weren't considered. Have I misunderstood, or?
The latest guidance from NRW dates back to June last year.
Yeah.
And that's what's been considered with this application. And the application is considered to comply with that guidance.
Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you. As I don't see any further hands, it's been proposed by councillor Hugh, seconded by councillor Ed, that we go with officer recommendation. So Steve, would you be able to, that's a legacy hand, councillor Edwin, is it? Yep. Steve, would you be able to put the voting form into the chat box, please? Wow, I believe it's there. Has everybody had an opportunity to vote? Councillor David, you have been able to. Love, excellent. Steve?
Thank you, Chair. 14 for, none against, 1 abstention.
Good. Thank you very much, Steve. So application 21/0467/FUL has been approved as per officer recommendation. Thank you very much, members. We'll just have a few seconds pause and we allow councillor Angela time to come back in and log in to her computer. And at the same time, can we ask councillor Gareth Pugh to leave the meeting, please?
Actually, do I have to actually log out on my computer now, or are you going to kick me out?
Councillor Pugh, I'll move you backstage and then I can move you back in.
Oh, that would be helpful for me, thank you. Just for the record, you know, before, after the recording had stopped and we carried on talking, the recording hadn't stopped. Not that it mattered and nothing was said, but just in case for the future.
Okay, thank you, councillor Gareth. Could he's back, councillor Angela, how are you? Yep. Thank you very much. I think we're ready to go. The application next 4.4 is demolition of an existing porch and conservatory and erection of 3 extensions. The officer taking us through this is Aled Williams, but like the last one, I won't forget this time prior to starting. Rachel, would you be so kind to say a few words?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, members, again, with this application, in view of the applicant in the matter, I have reviewed the file and it has been processed accordingly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
I'm just going to quickly come in. So it has been noted by Eli's that unfortunately the location plan that was accompanied the pack with the reports, it is the incorrect site. So we do apologise. That is an incorrect location plan that's been put with the report pack. But the correct details will be shown in the presentation. But I just wanted to quickly raise that. Apologies, that is incorrect.
The correct location plan is on the portal as well.
Correct, yes. So portal and website is all correct,
Okay.
yes.
Members, you're aware of that? I'm taking that on board. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hannah, all yours.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. And
Yep, answers back. Very good. Please.
thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. Today I bring forward for your consideration application 250640HH. The proposed works relate to the demolition of an existing porch and conservatory, along with the erection of 3 extensions, all to a domestic dwelling. This is an aerial image here of where the application site is set within the wider landscape. From this image, we can see Abermule, which is located approximately 1.2 kilometres to the southwest. As this site is not located within a development boundary, it has been considered as a development within the open countryside. This is just a more zoomed in aerial image of the site, which helps us understand the more immediate setting, which consists of a number of sheds, barns, and a couple of residential dwellings. This slide shows both the existing site plan and the proposed site plan. The proposed development to the site has been illustrated in red and is located on the south, west, and east elevations of the dwelling. The works to the east elevation would see the demolition of a porch, which would be replaced with a 2-storey extension. The conservatory located on the western elevation would be replaced by a new single-storey garden room. And lastly, a 2-storey extension is proposed to be constructed on the south elevation of the dwelling on an area of existing hard standing. Also on the proposed site plan, we can see an area of wildflower and pollinator planting, which you can just see to the north of the dwelling. And there's also proposed new hedgerow also to the north. These proposed biodiversity enhancements, along with the installation of a bird box on the east elevation, are considered to be acceptable enhancements. These images here illustrate both the existing and proposed ground floor plans of the dwelling. Here we can see the porch to the top of the ground floor image, which is to be replaced, as previously mentioned, by a 2-storey extension. The conservatory is at the bottom of the existing plans, and which is to be, as previously mentioned, replaced by a single-storey garden room. And also to the right of these plans is where the 2-storey extension is to take place. And here's some elevations of existing elevations, proposed elevation plans. As shown by these plans, the proposed extensions are modern in design and complement the existing dwelling well. The extension to replace the porch has been designed to match the existing pitch of the roof on the wing adjacent to this. The 2-storey extension on the south elevation, which is the largest extension to the dwelling, is again modern in its design and is to be constructed using a standing seam metal roof with both vertical composite cladding and through coat render system for the external walls. A grey aluminium cladding system is also to be incorporated on a small area of the external walls on the ground floor. Lastly, the garden room, which is to replace the conservatory, is modern again in its design. The garden room is a flat roof construction with its external walls constructed with grey aluminium cladding system, which matches that of the proposed south elevation extension. As the proposed works as shown within these elevation plans will impact an existing roof space, a bat and nesting bird assessment was submitted, for which the PCC ecologist was consulted and raised no concerns or objections. These last few slides now are just a few images I took of the site when I took my site visit in May of this year. This first image is of the existing porch, which is located on the east elevation. And this is the existing conservatory on the west elevation. And lastly, this image is of the south elevation of the property, where the 2-storey extension is also to be implemented. As I outlined in my report, my recommendation is one of approval. And thank you, Chair. And I'll pass it back to you for discussion.
Thank you, Aled. Thank you very much for your comprehensive report. Members, Councillor Carl, please kick your things up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. As there are no consultees anywhere in the report against this application, I therefore move to propose that we go along with officer's recommendation, please, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carl. Councillor Gareth, then Councillor Tom, please.
Yeah, I was just going to second it, Chair.
Thank
So
you.
was I, Chair, so that's it, really.
Good, lovely. Proposal second. I've taken there's no other hands wishing to speak. So in that case, Steve, are you ready? Please put the vote in the chat box. There she goes. But everybody had a chance to vote. Close vote. Thank you.
So 15 for, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you very much. So application 25//0640/HH has been approved as per officer recommendation. Before I close it, Aled, I believe this is the first time you presented to committee. So it must be the record for the quickest one that's gone through. So I hope you come back very soon. So no, thank you very much and good luck. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, members. I believe that does conclude the planning applications before us, but we do have 2 or 3 other items just to note. So item number 5, to receive the delegated list. So I hope you've all had an opportunity to look. Are there any observations, questions that anybody wishes to make? I take it that's a legacy hand, Councillor Carl.
No, Chair, it's just to say, there's an awful lot of business being done by the planning department there. Quite a full list, and just want to congratulate them on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor
Yeah,
Carl.
sure.
Councillor Karina, please.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask a question about land at West Street, Knighton. I don't know if anybody application, it's a contamination assessment report that's been refused. I just wondered.
Can I talk to you after? Sorry,
I'd
it's
love
not an application I'm aware of, but if you're okay, I'll come speak to you.
So just by a quick show of hands, are we all happy to receive this, please? Yeah, all happy at home. Good, thank you very much. And as Councillor Carl rightly said, a huge amount of decisions are made, which I think we'll hear about later. Item number 6, members, moving swiftly on, the appeals decision. Gemma, would you kindly brief the members on 3 appeals?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So in the time we have had 3 appeal decisions. All 3 have been dismissed, so they went with the local planning authority's recommendation. They relate to refusal based on highway grounds, an application regarding impact to the setting of a listed building, and then the third was the impact to a conservation area. So they were all dismissed. Any specific questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Is Councillor Gareth back in the meeting? He is. Thank you. Good. Sorry, any questions?
Yeah, I'm back, thank you.
Any questions to Gemma re the appeals? No. In that case, again, thank you very much, Gemma. And although not on your agenda, members, with your permission, are you happy that Gemma gives us a quick report of quarterly updates on what's been happening over the recent months? I see nodding head. So thank
I'll
you.
keep it very brief. So we've obviously just left Q1 for the financial year. So we do report to the Welsh Government on our performance after each quarter. So just to run through some other high-flying stats for that quarter. So for enforcement, we look to investigate our enforcement cases within 84 days. Now, our internal target is 80%, which is considered good with Welsh Government, which is actually the highest performance indicator. For the last quarter, so quarter one, we did reach 90% of our cases investigated within 84 days. So very well done to the team there. In terms of planning applications, again, there's a target for percentage of applications determined within agreed timeframes, and we managed to reach 96% for that quarter, again exceeding our internal targets. All major applications were agreed within time, so we reached 100% there, and all appeals received back in that quarter were all dismissed, so we again reached 100% there. Thank you, Chair.
Good, thank you, Gemma. Anybody wishing to comment? No, I just think on behalf of the committee, well, congratulations to yourself and to the team. Fantastic figures and moving rightly in the right direction. So well done all. Good, members. I believe that could. Oh, I do apologise. Councillor Hugh and then Councillor Gareth, please.
Yeah, quickly, Chair. I mean, is it possible to have a list of enforcement orders and what have you of the work of that department? We've discussed, we've had an issue today, but it would be good to recognise the work is carried out by our enforcement officers. If it was a list similar to this delegated list at the end of a session.
There will be issues there. Investigations, they're obviously not on the public portal or anything because there is an element of confidentiality, I would say. I'm happy to have that discussion perhaps out of this format just to see if we can do something, just obviously ensuring that we do are protecting confidentiality, isn't it? But yeah, if we have a discussion, Councillor Hugh, I'm happy to see what we could present to members.
Yeah, even if we went into confidential session at the end of a meeting, but thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Hugh. Yeah, we'll take that up and hopefully be able to facilitate. Councillor Gareth and then Councillor Tom, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Mine's related to enforcement. Just to say, there was an issue within my ward, and I think the Community Council, part of the Community Council has sent a letter to say it's with the reference number early June, and they've now added another message saying been sorted. So that was within 20 odd days. So really good, really impressed.
Thank you, Councillor Gareth, for that endorsement. Councillor Tom, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to build on what Councillor Hughes said, I think it would be good to have at least on the enforcement a sort of a progress list. I know that in my ward in Brontlis there are 2 items that have been under enforcement but not enforced for a long time, and I know there are very good reasons for that because I have the discussions with Gemma, but I think it would be good if we can keep track of those things that are supposed to be enforced and maybe not being enforced or indeed are being enforced. So
I think I can see members around the room nodding their heads in agreement. So maybe, as Councillor Hughes said, if we can look to put something in confidential session after a meeting and discuss where we are with this, it'll be a good platform for us all to know exactly where we're heading on this enforcement matter. Yeah. So thank you, Councillor Tom, and we'll make that happen as soon as we can.
Good, Chair.
Anybody else wishing to comment? No. Well, in that case, I will thank everyone. Thank you all the officers who've presented today, all the highways officers as well who've been in attendance. Also, like in the back, we have Beth Solomon with us, who is under the eye of our solicitor here. So you're in good hands, and I hope you haven't been put off too much by the committee procedure here today, and all the best with your training. Thank you to Steve for stepping in from Carol. Members, if you could stay behind when the recording finishes, we've just got a couple of things just to run by you. So with that, at 12 o'clock, we'll close the meeting. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi gyd.